Hey, what's going on, trucking community? This is your favorite freight dispatch trainer, Antoine West. I'm back at you guys with another video, and we have some great news about the 2024 port strike. So it looks like the port strike has been suspended. That the port strike is suspended until at least January 15th of 2025. So if you guys have seen, people have started to do panic buying and buying things like toilet paper and other commodities from the grocery stores out of panic, thinking that they weren't going to be able to get it from grocery stores. So the great thing is that the port strike has been avoided. It has been suspended until January the 15th of next year. But let's check out this brief news article about the port strike and see the latest updates.
We have breaking news that we want to get to right now. You'll remember if you were joining us on midnight on Monday, October the 1st, when those port workers went on strike. They went off the job onto the picket line. We are breaking in right now because the parties have reached a tentative agreement here. We have live pictures. I'm going to bring some of them up here, not only in New York, but also there at the Port of Savannah in Georgia as well. Well, this is what we know. The union representing those 45,000 striking U.S. dock workers at ports up and down the eastern seaboard and the Gulf Coast. Well, they have reached a deal with the U.S. Maritime Alliance to suspend their strike until January the 15th to provide time to negotiate a new contract. That's according to a person briefed on the matter to Fox here. So the strike is over for now. There's this 90-day window for talks to continue. This is tentative at the moment here. If talks break down past January 15th, presumably the strike will go into effect. But they have bought themselves time here. The union, remember, the International Longshoremen's Association, will resume working immediately, at least until January the 15th. The agreement will allow both the union and the U.S. Maritime Alliance, which represents both the shippers and the ports here, time to negotiate a new 6-year contract. So the person to the Associated Press also said both sides reached agreement on wage increases, but details were not available here. Fox Business, though, does have the details. If no full deal is reached by then, by January the 15th, the offer that is on the table right now, that offer is a 62% wage increase. That hike will be pulled from the table if in the interim they cannot still agree on this here. This is a conditional offer. It's been made to the ILA. The ILA has accepted this right now, 62% wage increase here. Not entirely sure if they have agreed or not on some of these other concerns these dock workers had, like the threat of.
So it looks like they've agreed on a 62% increase in wages over the next 4 years. But one major concern that the dock workers had was about automation, right? They wanted the docks to agree not to have any automation, not to have robots on the docks, which will pretty much put the port workers out of a job, right? So they wanted that in the agreement for the companies not to use automation. But I don't know if they're going to get that or not, because as we can see, automation is taking over everything pretty much. And I think it could be a good thing, though. So us with automation, us as humans, we won't have to do some of the repetitive tasks that we have to do, like the port workers. So I don't know if the companies are going to actually agree to not have automation, because that's going to save companies a lot of money over time. But it looks like the port companies have at least agreed to a wage increase for the port workers.
Automation to their jobs, also some with regard to their retirement plans as well. This is what we know right now. The deal reached only matters right now with their base pay, with their wages, and they're getting a 62% hike. It's on the table, that offer for the next 90 days here. In the meantime, we are getting in right now a joint statement in from both parties. Let's take that here. All right, so this is what they say. This is a joint statement between the ILA and the Maritime Alliance, quote, that the International Longshoremen's Association and the United States Maritime Alliance Limited have reached a tentative agreement on wages and have agreed to extend the master contract until January 15th, 2025 to return to the bargaining table to negotiate all other outstanding issues. Effective immediately, all current job actions will cease and all work covered by the master contract will resume here. So this was about a 3.5-day strike here. We've covered a lot of union strikes here at Live Now. This one, not very long at all here. We do have live pictures. I believe this is in Red Hook in Brooklyn at the moment, a live picture there. And you can see it looks like some of these striking dock workers who are no longer striking, waving the American flag. You see there our friend Fox's Connor Hansen. He's on the scene there in Red Hook in Brooklyn. Of course, we know the largest port on the East Coast. That's the port of New York and New.
Like he said, too, they're getting back to work right away. It's expected that they, start work this evening, as in Thursday evening. That's when the strike was suspended on Thursday. And it looks like they're going to get to work right away. So we're going to see what effect this is going to have on the trucking industry. The strike wasn't that long. If it would have been longer, we would have seen more effects on the trucking industry. But the ports were closed down a couple of days, and I imagine they have some backlog on the ports. So we're going to see how this is going to affect trucking. If you're in trucking and you pick up loads from the ports, I'm sure, you've seen a decrease in loads and haven't been able to get loads even from these short few days. And those loads have probably piled up at the port. So I would expect to see more loads out the port. So if you're in trucking, I would really pay attention to the loads coming out the ports and the rates that's coming out the ports, because they should be pretty busy over the next few days.
New Jersey here. We've been showing you some of these scenes throughout the last 3.5 days here. This is happening very, very fast. Just happened within the last 30 minutes here. Let's put up some of these tweets. The Associated Press has it that the union representing 45,000 striking U.S. dock workers at East and Gulf Coast ports has reached a deal to suspend their strike until January the 15th to provide time to negotiate a new contract. Now, this doesn't mean this is over by any means. All it means is that these dock workers, they will get back on the job, while the parties that represent them, the union that represents them, led by the ILA president, Harold Daggett, he will be back at the table with the U.S. Maritime Alliance here. Now, the ILA this morning put out quite a testy 10.
Also, did you guys start hearing those reports that was coming out about Harold Daggett, the leader of the union? It said that he has like all type of yachts, that he lives this lavish lifestyle, and he's complaining about the port companies not paying, his men, as he calls them, the port workers. But it's been said that he lives like a lavish lifestyle. Elon Musk said this guy has more yachts than him, So it looks like this guy is living pretty good himself. And maybe the only ones that really needed the pay raise was his so-called workers, his so-called men.
It's a long statement on their Facebook page, really criticizing members of the media. There was a piece in the New York Post just yesterday kind of detailing, outlining some of Harold Daggett's lavish expenditures and mansion there, talking about his lifestyle. And Daggett really went after the Post for that. He said the newspaper this week published aerial photographs of his New Jersey home, including posting his address in an article. He says they printed other details of his personal life full of false accusations against him, with the sole intent on destroying his character and disparaging his 68-year ILA career, with the intention of weakening his ability to negotiate a new master contract for ILA members. That was this morning. And how the hours have progressed and the news has progressed here, that the port strike has been suspended for now at least 90 days while the parties get back to the table. Detroit, the Associated Press, Dateline.
So guys, all in all, looks like the port strike is suspended from now. That's the best thing, about this whole news briefing, that it's suspended. And we don't have to look forward to, higher inflation and not having things on our shelves. But one thing I believe we should all learn from this is we need to start making more goods within the United States, right? We don't need to depend on other countries for our commodities that we use here at home. And then we won't have this problem again. And as the news anchor said here, this tentative agreement is only until January the 15th. So after January the 15th, we could go through this whole thing again, and it could be much longer. This could come up. It could be another strike starting January the 15th if they haven't reached the agreement, and it could last weeks or it could last months. So the thing that I would think is we as Americans need to position ourselves now for when things like this happen. In earlier videos, what I talked about is the effect that it could have on the trucking industry, because the longer this port strike would have kept up, it would have pushed freight rates up. And when freight rates go up, prices of commodities also increase in price. Food increases in price. We all know already the prices, to me, they're ridiculous, right? So much inflation. You go to the grocery store, you have sky high prices. I remember when you used to go to the grocery store and spend about $100, $150. The thing now, $100, $150 won't really get you anything at the grocery stores now. And this strike, the longer it lasts, would have just pushed the prices up. But freight rates would have went up. Me being in the trucking industry, you want to position yourself in an industry that rates increase when the prices in the economy increases. So that's why I like being in trucking. So this is just something to keep an eye on. I'm glad it didn't last any longer than it did. I didn't want the American people to have to go through the, more hurt of inflation. But what we need to keep in mind, come January 15th, we could be reliving this whole thing over again. So if you're in the trucking industry, if you're an owner operator, if you're a dispatcher, if you do anything in the logistics industry, what I would start doing, like right now, since we seen something like this can happen, I would start getting prepared, just in case it does come back up January the 15th. And if it doesn't, that's great, right? But I think this should show us in the trucking industry that you need to be prepared. If you have a trucking business or a dispatching business, I recommend for you to, not waste money in your business. We need to be reinvesting money in our business, because if this would have took place longer, what would have happened is we would have suffered for a while in the trucking industry. And then I think we would have had like a large rebound where rates would have shot up. But in the beginning, we would have suffered. So that's something to always pay attention to if you're in trucking. You want to have enough cash put to the side where you can withstand that hard time frame, that hard period where rates would have went down, and then you can be ready. You can still survive until rates increase and shoot back up. Because with the backlog that this would have created on our ports, by the ports being shut down for possibly a couple of weeks, that would have created a large backlog, and rates would have shot up because demand for truck drivers is everything works off of supply and demand, right? So demand for trucks would have increased. So that would cause rates to increase, right? But it looks like that it has been suspended for now until January the 15th. But this is definitely something to keep an eye on. Make sure you let me know in the comments of this video, what do you think about this entire thing? Do you think the port workers should they have got a raise increase, Or, is it right for them to say, want in their contracts, like no automation, right? The world's moving forward, like it or not. We're going to have automation, coming to this world, coming to different industries, right? The good thing I kind of like about automation, what automation is going to do is it's going to cause us human beings not to have to do so many repetitive tasks over and over, right? Because that's what everyone hates doing, the same thing over and over. And what automation and AI is going to do, we're going to be able to focus on our purpose and goals more instead of working jobs doing the same thing over and over. But I'm glad that this port strike didn't happen, right now, because it's just already too much inflation. Jobs aren't hiring, things like that. So this is just something we really didn't need, because one thing the port strike would have did too, I feel like it would have put all of us on strike. This would have affected all of us, because the warehouse workers, cars, grocery stores wouldn't have been getting any goods. So people would have been laid off. It would have been a lot of layoffs, right? A lot of layoffs. I see Stephanie's comment. Yes, thank God it's over. And hopefully by January, they will reach a resolution. And I thank God too. I truly do. I did not want to see the ramifications of this happening. Honestly, me as a man of faith, I was just hoping that the entire time that this all worked out, right? I didn't want to see people have to, live a harder life. So I'm glad it worked out for now. But let's all prepare for January the 15th, right? Let's keep that in mind. Don't forget that date, January the 15th. I'm sure I'm still, having faith. So I think that will work out too. And something will work out before January the 15th. But don't forget, I just want to give you guys this brief update on the 2024 port strike. Thank God it's over. But this was just a brief update. You guys have any questions, anything you want to say, make sure you comment down below in the